Thank you for joining us for the Detroit JCS audio and video podcast from Johnson Consulting Services. Today's episode is all about ESSER funding. But first, let's talk about federal funding. For all federal funding must follow 3 basic elements as seen here. All federal funds may only be used for specific appropriated purposes. Any excess public funds may not be obligated or expended, and an obligation must meet the need of the current fiscal year and is only available for a definite period. Now, about ESSER funding. What does ESSER stand for? Also known as COVID funding, the Elementary Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. ESSER is administered by the U.S. Department of Education. These funds derive from federal legislation known as the CARES Act of 2020. The CARES Act stands for the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, also known as Public Law 116-136, which was passed on March 27, 2020. The CARES Act implemented a variety of programs to address issues related to the onset of the global COVID-19 pandemic and was followed by the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021. In the Wayne-Westland Community Schools, ESSER funds added complexities to the local school district budget. From the public meetings and the news media, we found that the board hired professional staff that did not properly account for these ESSER or pass-through funds. The public necessarily questioned their elected officials for transparency, accuracy, and accountability concerns related to administration of the school budget. Through the superintendents, we found or were told that there was a cut and paste error of at least $8.4 million for 1 year, while also espousing that there was no evidence of missing money. We learned that projected and actual budget variances surprised many, while salary increases, new bonuses, health care, and operational costs exceeding inflation contributed to budget woes. There was a retirement fund liability increase, and increased expenditures were not factored into the final budget amendments. Finally, there is a possibility of state oversight if the general fund balance is not corrected. The general fund equity balance in the state of Michigan is recommended to be at least 15% of a district's general fund expenditures. By state law, local intermediate and charter school districts must not carry an operating deficit in a fund. According to the U.S. Department of Education, the state of Michigan was awarded just over $389 million in ESSER funding. The school board neglected to act on what auditors told them during the initial June 2023 Finance Committee meeting. No questions were asked when they were told for the 2022-2023 final budget amendments for the general fund operating budget for both revenue and expenditures that there were variances between $10.9 million and $20.14 million, both increases attributed to state and local revenues and increases in all contracts, salaries, utilities, retirement, and fringe benefit costs. School board Finance Committee members also neglected to act on what the auditors told them about the 2023-2024 General Fund Operating Budget recommendations. There was a variance increase of $5.9 million, which a simple calculation would have seen an increase that was not accounted for. Basically, general fund operating budget summaries showing increases and decreases for revenues and expenditures went unquestioned. So how did this happen? Let's look at a few headlines related to the number and type of employees that may be laid off, the walking back of plans to privatize bus service, and overall budget shortfalls and mishaps. So what should have happened? School boards and the public rely on the respective committees to do their job and ask questions when presented with financial or other data that they do not understand. This committee did not ask questions when variances were presented. Finance committees should closely scrutinize any and all variances. This committee did not ask any questions. No calculator was visibly seen during the meetings. And while a calculator may not have caught every instance, basic questions when variances differed by either percentage or dollar amounts just didn't happen. No finance committee should be silent during final budget amendments. The committee should be actively raising questions throughout a multi-million-dollar budget with new entries such as pass-through federal funding, which add complexity to any budget. The school board depends on its committees to question justification so that they understand what happened and can then pass this knowledge on to the public when asked. This committee simply accepted all justifications without question. And finally, The board should consider hiring a consultant going forward to assist the Finance Committee if they lack the necessary experience to effectively assess financial data presented to them. In particular, the committee should be familiar with audit terminology, budget justifications, and financial terms before reviewing and approving multi-million-dollar budgets. There's existing guidance and a local resource that the Wayne-Westland School District can turn to. The first being the Michigan Public School Accounting Manual, which is a uniform classification and recording of accounting transactions for all Michigan public school districts. The second, the Office of Education and Secondary Education, which provides guidance for grantees, applicants, and educators for ARPA and education stabilization funds like ESSER. Finally, there's the State School Aid Act of 1979, also known as Public Act 94 of 1979. It is key legislation that provides funding for public education here in Michigan. And finally, your local trusted resource, Johnson Consulting Services. Johnson Consulting Services is a quality professional consulting service, and we provide 4 distinct service areas: auditing, consulting, schooling, and signing. Trained in the generally accepted government auditing standards, or Yellow Book, we're ready to assist you in reading through financial statements, examining budget justifications, reviewing internal and external auditor presentations and statements. Contact us. We can help with that and also provide a trained eye second opinion. The Detroit JCS audio podcast also contains more school-based information, and you can find us on the following apps: Odyssey, iHeartRadio, Listen Notes, Podbean, Radio Public, and Spotify. Thank you for listening today, and Happy New Year to you. We hope to hear from you soon.